On this inaugural episode, we crack open the proverbial slab as we talk all things Harley Quinn. So get ready to grade your copy of Dark Hawk #1 because you're listening to a kind of garbage first in Cameo podcast.
It's a kind of...
Good day and welcome to the first episode of First in Cameo, where we take a look at a character loved by slab comic book collectors and we dissect them like the frogs they are. I'm Adam Bishop, and with me on this journey is my faithful fellow ginger companion,
Dan Collins.
All right, Dan, in this series, First in Cameo, we select a comic book character, find those highly sought after graded comic books, and we dig into them, educating the listeners and each other because I don't know about you, I know nothing.
I know a little bit more than nothing, but not much more.
You picked the topic, or did I pick the topic? I can't remember.
You picked the comic, and then I decided, hey, maybe we should expand it to be more about the character.
Yeah, and that character is, I don't know if it's your favorite. I like her. It's Harley Quinn.
Yeah, she's one of my, I'd say top 10 characters. Sure.
So I think before we dive into her, should we educate people on, well, I guess anybody who's listened to this is already educated, but should we go into the three major comic book grading companies?
Sure, yeah. No better way to start.
So I think the biggest one by far is it's CCG, which is the parent company, and then the sister company is CGC. So CCG is Certified Collectibles Group. I have no idea when they were founded. I couldn't find that information when I was gathering up all of my notes. But CGC, Certified Guarantee Company, was founded in 2000, and they grade comic books, trading cards, magazines, lobby cards, and other collectibles.
They do video games now too, don't they?
I don't have video games from them yet. I might be missing that. I can go through what they do grade. CAG, which is the Collectibles Authentication Guarantee, which does collectibles, memorabilia, estate item preservation, and authentication and provenance, which I have no idea what that is. Then they have the CCS, which is Classics Collectible Services, which was acquired by them in 2013. And I believe that does comic book pressing, restoration, and restoration removal. So you can get them to restore a comic book for you and then remove their own restoration if you really wanted.
Sounds like a good plan.
The new company, which was announced last year and I believe is starting up, I think it was April this year, is CSG, which is Certified Sports Guarantee, which is Sport Card Grading Service. Then there is the NGC, which is the, I'm going to butcher this, Numismatic Guarantee Company, which was founded in 1987, which does coins, tokens, and medals. Oh god, then there's like four more. There's another coins, tokens, medal restoration, which is NCS. There's PMG, which is paper money. There is ASG, which is stamps, and GPA, which is their grade price analysis, which is a tool that I think they use for grading CCG comics and magazines that you get, I think the notes, or I'm not sure what that service was.
Yeah, I don't know. I know the GPA. I just know that that's what people use for pricing.
The other two companies are CBCS, which I would assume is number 2, which is the Comic Book Certification Service, formed in 2012, which is part of Beckett Media, and they do grading and authentication. And then there is everybody's favorite PGX, which is Professional Grading Experts, which the experts is with an E, but their initials is with an X. I think Rob Liefeld might have founded the company. But they do comic book grading, pressing, cleaning, and they authenticate art and signatures. And those are the three big ones. And then there's a couple of, I guess I won't call PGX big, but then there's two smaller companies as well called Halo Certification and then Midwest Comics and Grading, which those two I've never heard of until looking into grading, and I would probably never recommend them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's get into Harley.
Okay.
So I found 4 issues of Harley Quinn that have grading notes. I don't know how many that you found.
I only looked for 4 issues to talk about.
Okay, I'm interested to see if we're going to have the exact same 4. I think we have 3 guaranteed, but you probably have my 4th as well now.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
All right, so the first comic that I have is Batman Adventures number 12.
Yeah.
So this one, graded by the CGC and by the CBCS, is noted as the first appearance of Harley Quinn in comics outside of DC continuity.
Yeah.
I think the big thing with Harley Quinn is, would you consider, like, it's, since we're talking about comics, her first appearance isn't in comic form, it's in a TV show. Would you consider the comic books, like, when they put first appearance of this character, like, how would you look at that?
Well, like I know in some other, I should have looked up some examples, but there are some other characters where they put first comic book appearance. You know, like maybe like a Rocket Raccoon has first comic book appearance, I think, in his first appearance. And this is something that I've only just thought about right now and haven't had time to research. So
Did Rocket appear in something before comic books?
I think he was like in magazines or something. But I definitely think that his Hulk appearance is listed as first comic book appearance. Topic for another show.
So I think the biggest thing is Harley Quinn has two first appearance books, and then also two first origin books, and then also her first, I guess, her first own title, which is, those are the four notes that I got from the four different books that I have listed down. So what were the four that you
She,
had?
I was going to say she actually only has three because one of them is her first appearance and origin in continuity, both within the same book.
And that one is just, it's just called Harley. No, it's called Batman Harley Quinn and it's a one shot published October 1999.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting that, like, I know that people want their book to have a great note, be in a first appearance, where obviously Batman Adventures number 12 is going to have higher value because it's her first true appearance. But even then, like, it's in comic form. I feel like the moment you have a character not from the comic books first, and they're kind of like, I don't want to say ported over, but they're brought over from a different medium, does it really count as a first appearance of them? It is a first appearance in that medium. But to say, like, this comic has value because this is the first time you've seen the character, I think it's almost incorrect.
I can see what you're saying there. And I think there's definitely has become this huge thing right now where speculators are trying to find characters that appear in shows and then find their first appearance. It happens a lot, I think, in the Star Wars comics right now, where they're looking for first appearances in old comics that don't even really matter.
So for me, when I look at Star Wars is a movie franchise. So that's the main medium that it's part of. So when you're putting characters into comic book form, like, comic book characters are, that's where they're originally from, and then you bring them into like a movie or a TV show. So by making a book based off a movie series or a different medium, then bring them in, even then I feel like, well, that's kind of cheating for like a first appearance for comic books.
So you're not excited by all of your Kevin Costner first appearance in comic books?
See, and that's like the first likeness used of an actor, where then you
Yeah.
would have like, oh well, where's the first unofficial license? Because then that'd be like all the personality comics, which no one's going to care about those.
Another thing on this topic, Showcase 43, I think, is the issue, the first appearance of James Bond in comics. You know, it came out after the first James Bond movie was out, and it's a slight retelling of the first James Bond movie.
Yeah, like
Is
that's insane. That's something that people look to for value. That's like saying, I have the very first James Bond coloring book.
You have a James Bond coloring book? I'll buy it off you for $1 million.
Well, that's just it. Like, the different product, if it's not the original medium that they're from, I think I can't believe that people have like this heightened value of it. I would assume the most valuable Harley Quinn piece of merchandise should be the very first frame of the original cell with her in it from the cartoon show.
And that probably is the most valuable thing you can get, except there's only one and it's not for sale.
No, it's probably in the Warner Brothers archives.
Yeah. Or Bruce Timm has it or something.
He'll have all of the prototype drawings that predate even the first comic book, which, yeah, would be worth more.
But we don't
I guess we should
collect
get in.
those things.
Oh, there's a big market. I've looked at Rocco's Modern Life art sells on eBay, and I'm like, I really want one. It's always the shipping though that kills you, regardless of what it is. So, like we said, Batman Adventures number 12 is the first appearance in comic form that has that special like asterisk non-canon. Should that matter with a character appearing in comic books, even though I disagree with the way that they list that, but how do you feel about it?
Um, I I think it definitely that asterisk definitely does matter, but does it matter so much that I would trade a copy of Batman Adventures 12 for a copy of Batman Harley Quinn because that one's the true first appearance? No. I will keep Batman Adventures 12 any day of the week over any other Harley comic.
Even with the Batman Harley Quinn, it's not even like they say it's canon, but it's a one shot. Does it tie in? Like how does it tie in with the actual like standard continuity? I don't read DC at all, so I have no idea. I didn't even look into it.
I don't have that issue to know exactly what it is, but I did read a synopsis, and so it's an issue that takes place during an event, No Man's Land, a Batman event, No Man's Land that like lasted a year and was in every single Batman and Batman related title, Nightwing, Catwoman. And this one shot is basically retelling the origin. Well, it's telling for the first time in continuity the origin of Harley Quinn, that she is a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum and falls in love with the Joker, and then she gets put into the asylum herself when her supervisors realize that she's in love with the Joker. And then the events of No Man's Land happen, and Arkham gets like destroyed, and she escapes with the Joker. Kinda. That's a loose retelling of it, but that's kind of what it's like.
So is her in continuity origin the exact same as her animated origin?
It seems very close.
I literally can't believe that that is a comic book that people like want, not desperately, but just that it's marked as the canon first appearance and canon origin.
I mean, I if you're a Harley Quinn collector, that's going to be one of the three main issues that you would probably want to be collecting from her early adventures. But also, it has a gorgeous Alex Ross cover. Like you've seen the cover, absolutely gorgeous cover. So it's worth getting just for the cover.
That's true. Alex Ross does like almost well, he does photorealistic people and it looks really nice.
Yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful.
I've seen some Frank Cho covers of Harley Quinn. I love his artwork. Not really a fan.
Yeah, I haven't seen those. I do have some notes on Batman Harley Quinn. As you said, from 1999, origin and first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC Universe continuity. Approximately 55,000 issues printed. On the CGC census, there's 6 9.9s, 1,045 9.8s, and 634 9.6s.
So people have been submitted this book. So what percentage would that be of printed runs of that?
You are asking me questions I can't do with my phone currently occupied. And you know this, Adam.
Oh, that's a. Did you say 55,000 copies?
Yes. That's the what I've got.
Okay.
Now, I was going to say, if you go to Batman Adventures, the notes that was able to find, I can't find anything that's an exact print run. I've seen everywhere from 40,000 to 150,000.
Cool.
So it does have quite a few
I
more.
I assume that book series would be super popular. I don't know when I don't know when that TV show started. I actually wish I had that written down. She first appeared on September 11th, 1992 on the TV show. So literally a year later, that's how long it took them to put her into the non-canon comic.
Yep.
And then another, what, 7, 8 years to get into the actual canon comics.
Yeah, another like 6 years, 5, 6 years.
So one of the things that I found interesting was for characters when they first appear, but it's non-canon, even CGC has some continuity, not continuity issues, but like issues with their notes, depending on how the public or other collectors look at those notes down the road. One of the things I notice is what if number 10 does not include Jane Foster as Thor, but in brackets out of Marvel Comics continuity until later graded issues that they've done. So I found a bunch of graded copies of that book from 2018. That was the year that they were graded, that say just like Jane Foster as Thor. But come what year was it? I think it was like 2020. All the issues that they've graded say it's her first appearance as Thor out of Marvel Comics continuity. Like I couldn't find any Harley Quinns that didn't say continuity, like out of continuity, because I believe that I guess they made that decision beforehand.
Yeah,
Where the Marvel What If number 10, they hadn't made that decision yet.
I think the Marvel What If number 10 was completely pushed by speculators, though, right? Based on the movies, and is Jane Foster going to be Thor in the movies? And then also they made Jane Foster Thor in the comic books. And so now maybe that once they made Jane Foster actually be Thor, they had to go back and throw that asterisk in on the what if because it's not in continuity, whereas before it didn't matter.
Yeah, the weird thing is 2018 CG books did not say it was out of continuity. But the Thor Volume 4, number 1, which she becomes Thor in continuity, came out 4 years prior in 2014.
I got nothing.
It took them 6 years, let's say 5 or 6 years, to put that like that little asterisk that says out of continuity on What If number 10.
I think probably they just had to wait for a certain amount of people to complain and say like, "Hey, you should put this in there." And they're like, "Okay, these guys on the internet are right. Let's do this." Because you're right, it shouldn't be. Like it doesn't make any sense that it wasn't there in the first place.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know, like see I've noticed from so many of the CGC notes over time that I've looked at that consistency is not their strong point. Like of I don't want to say of their company, but just in the comics area, where they almost have to take consideration of what the fans are screaming at them about. Like this is the first appearance, and then they like rewrite the rules. But at that point, like, should I be able to send my slab back to you so you update the notes, letting everybody know like, oh, this is the correct note for it, and then them not charge me except for like shipping?
But what if you had a comic that was previously listed as the first appearance and now they've decided is just the second appearance? You wouldn't want to ship that back.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that happened with I think it was one of the Aliens books,
Yes,
right? If I remember
yes.
properly.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, but they're like, oop, we messed up. It's like it's actually not the first appearance of aliens. It was this book, or it might have been a magazine. I can't remember.
No, I'm pretty sure it was a Dark Horse Presents that they were saying was the first appearance, wasn't it? But like I don't think it
Uh,
was.
yeah, that might be true. You know who's yelling at their computer right now, right?
Everybody in the world.
This is true. So one of the other things I had with Harley Quinn is I mentioned it to you. It reminds me of a character from the X-Men cartoon show, which is Morph. Wow, which is Morph. Let me say his name properly. So Morph is, in theory, a cartoon created character that later appeared in the comic books. But the producers of the show said that they got the idea for Morph from a character from X-Men issue number 35 from August 1967, which they changed his name, they kind of repurposed for the show. And then, like, I don't know if it is part of continuity where Marvel said, like, oh, this is going to be the same character. I think he was called Changeling. I don't have it written down, but I'm pretty sure his name was Changeling in the comic books, but they renamed him Morph because DC now had a
Yeah.
character called Changeling that they had the copyrights for. But anyways, the reason why I bring that up, it was like literally from the same point. I think Morph appeared in the X-Men the month after Harley appeared in Batman on TV for like their first television appearances.
And how much is that first issue of Morph going for? That first appearance, crazy bucks
Well, wait, of Morph or
of
Changeling?
Morph. Changeling's probably a little
I was
expensive.
gonna say no. The Morph issue, I see X-Men Adventures number 1 in the $2 bins all the time. I have a copy. I'm missing like 3 comic books from the original X-Men Adventures series. I think it ran for like 3 or 4 volumes. But yeah, it's not worth anything. Nobody cares about Morph.
I just think it's kind of funny that Harley Quinn has made like because X-Men Adventures and Batman Adventures, these comics that are just basically retelling stories or telling stories in the reality of the TV shows are literally just the kind of comics you would buy for a quarter and give to your kid back then. And now one of them is one of the most sought after first appearances and of a modern age character.
even for the X-Men ones, I don't know of any other characters that first appeared in the cartoon show other than like repurposed morph. But like the X-Men ones will never be worth money. But like it's mind-boggling that the Batman Adventures 12 is worth what? Like how much am I allowed to ask them how much you paid for
You're allowed
yours?
to ask how much I paid for mine. I have a 9.2 that I picked up this past summer, and I paid proper price for. I didn't get it for a deal, and it was about 650. Now I do have some sales numbers, which is Batman Adventures 12 is currently sitting around 2,900 bucks for a 9.8, and this past October a newsstand version went for $5,800 Canadian and 9.8.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Have you decided whether or not you're going to cash in your book?
I can't. The answer to that is no. No, because I like the character too much to want to cash in, especially without knowing if I'll ever be able to afford another copy. So no, I will keep it.
Yeah, you have a reprint
I
of the book as
do.
well,
I
right?
have the Dollar Comics reprint, which I actually bought like maybe 2 or 3 months before I bought the actual version, the actual comic. No idea when I picked up the Dollar Comics version that I would one day own the first appearance. And yeah, I have that right here with me.
So here's my question. Has DC done a dollar comic of the Batman Harley
I don't
Quinn?
think they have, but I can't say 100% for sure.
Because if they're doing reprints of that one, then that's them saying like, hey, this is worth money. Most people aren't going to find it at a like reasonable price. Here's a dollar issue where you can get that comic to fill that hole in your collection that people might not be able to. I have I think it was like a $4 or $3 issue of New Mutants number 98 inside of my box of New Mutants because I have all 100 issues and I'm missing 98. I could care less about Deadpool, but I need that comic to complete my run of that entire series, and that's where I plop that in there just to be like, hey, yeah, I have it. I don't give a shit about like the real one. I just need to
But
fill that
why
hole.
don't you just buy the real one? It's not well beyond your price range. I'm sure you could do it if you just didn't buy a bunch of crappy books for a month.
Well, I think the big thing for me is that for valuable comics, like the most expensive non-slabbed comic I've ever bought is Zap number I think it's one, Zap number one by Robert Crumb. And I think it's a third or fourth printing, and I paid $70 for it. And this thing is a little beat up as well. And I bought it from the Beguiling in Toronto. But like even my CGC comics that I did own, I think I paid $90 for I paid 90 or 90. I think I paid 90 or 100 for the Secret Wars number 8, which somebody who is very special
Somebody
owns
who
that
is
now.
also on this podcast. That's
Oh, just you wait. Once that Spider-Man appears in the Marvel universe, that book's going to
Yeah, I mean, it
skyrocket
already
again.
has gone up significantly over the past year. I was gonna say now, if you're talking just as a comparison between Deadpool and Harley Quinn, because Deadpool is another Deadpool. Allow me to segue. In researching for this show, I Googled notable female comic characters. Okay, and this I'm gonna read a long list, and this is a list of that Google gave me of notable female characters. It goes Wonder Woman, Catwoman, Jean Grey, Black Canary, Carol Danvers, Susan Storm, Black Widow, Barbara Gordon, Batwoman, Poison Ivy, She Hulk, Storm, Spider Man, Wolverine, Rogue, Wanda Maximoff, Power Girl, Emma Frost, Wasp, and then Harley Quinn. That's where Google thinks Harley Quinn sits in notable female comic characters.
So you're telling me that X-23 as
Yeah,
Wolverine
I'm
is
not even
higher?
saying it's X-23 as Wolverine. Could just be regular Wolverine because the Hulk, regular Hulk, was right after Harley Quinn. So Google isn't quite sure.
But She-Hulk She-Hulk and X-23 took up the mantles just like Lady Thor was just called Thor for those issues. So that's where I'm assuming that they're
Yeah, I'm
going with
not
that.
100% sure, but obviously Google doesn't rank Harley Quinn very high on the list of things. Even though if you're going by price, Harley Quinn would beat half of these characters as far as the value of her comic first appearance, whether in continuity or out of continuity.
Well, out of continuity is worth more. I'm just trying to think, like, how much would Storm be
Well,
worth?
isn't it
Oh wait,
Giant
it's
Size
Giant Size
X-Men
X-Men number
#1?
one.
But that's
So
not
it's
a
worth a
fair
lot.
comparison because that's the first appearance of a lot of great
No.
characters. And I was also researching New Mutants 98 because Deadpool is a pretty comparable character when you look at two characters that were introduced around the same time. And New Mutants 98 for a 9.8 goes for about $1,500 as of current January 10. So Harley smokes New Mutants 98 there.
Yeah, like New Mutants isn't worth that much. It's just it's the Deadpool fanboys that make it more valuable.
And I would say both of these issues, Batman Adventures 12 and New Mutants 98, are still the ones that you hope to find in some long box somewhere where somebody doesn't know what they have and just has a bunch of 90s garbage.
So I guess the third book that we haven't really touched upon too much is Batman Adventures Mad Love, which is I guess the in cartoon comic universe origin of Harley Quinn out of DC continuity. I'm assuming that there's a TV episode which does her origin later on in the series. I used to watch the series. I have no idea like of the episode order or any of that type of stuff.
So this issue came out in 1994, and it actually is Harley Quinn's origin, the first time that you get to read her origin, from what I understand. It was later made into an episode of the show in 1999.
Wow, I didn't know that. So the comic book is the original origin of her before the canon
Correct,
origin or the
yes.
TV show origin, which is bizarre. Like that's the origin of Black Suit Spider-Man. I think is more expensive than first appearance of Black Suit
Why is
Spider-Man.
that though?
Like black the well the first appearance of Black Suit Spider-Man is tied
Right.
between two issues. I can't remember what the second one was, but the other yeah, the main one is the what Amazing Fantasy 15 like homage cover. So this first appearance of a new suit, you just kind of like recycle a cover where Secret Wars was one, it was a big event. Two, you had Spider-Man in a brand well, not in a brand new costume, but like people might have been not too into Spider-Man. I don't know. Like I just feel like that's the bigger celebration of that costume. And I'm not too well versed in Spider-Woman, but correct me if I'm wrong. Spider-Woman was in
I don't
Secret
know.
Wars.
I've never read Secret Wars.
Oh shit. Okay, I'm pretty sure Spider-Woman is in it, and she's wearing her black suit, which is very similar to the black suit Spider-Man. I could be 100% wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where she has like the black suit with the white spider logo on her chest. So Spider-Man is very, very similar. But like, yeah, like I said, I could be 100% wrong. And the fourth comic I had was Harley Quinn #1, which the note on the CGC graded comic was first Harley Quinn in her own title. And then it just said Joker Poison
So
Ivy
I picked a
appearance as
different
well.
one for my fourth one.
Yeah, I have no notes on this book. It was just the fourth book that I could find, and you'll have lots of characters that like they have like little mini series, which like I think Submariner, like I have issue 1 where it's just like the first time in his own like 2-part limited series. And I'm like, oh, cool, and it's like in my box of to burn basically because it doesn't matter. And that's how almost feel like this, where they were trying to capitalize on, I guess, just probably #1s like DC's probably looked down the editor hall, been like, "Hey, who hasn't had their own comic book yet that we can make a brand new #1?" And someone goes, Harley Quinn," and then it's like, "Fuck it, give her a comic." And that's probably how it happened.
I'm shaking my head at you again. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Other than that, like I have nothing about that comic book. Even when I was looking on eBay, which is probably my favorite way to look at prices for CGC books or CBCS books, like that one was on there. It didn't like the prices weren't high. I don't even have anything written down, but I keep on getting now eBay alerts being like, "Hey, are you still interested in this book?" And I'm like,
Me
"No, I'm
too.
not.
Me too. I
Leave me
hate that.
alone."
I got like 3 emails today that were like, we noticed that you looked at this book. Here's some other options. I'm like, I was only researching, you son of a gun.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start looking up any prices and then books on eBay for the podcast on my computer while not logged
Um,
in.
just to circle back to Spider Woman for a second. Spider Woman, Julia Carpenter, I think she's must be the second Spider Woman, because Jessica Drew was the first Spider Woman. So she first appeared Secret Wars #6. So you're correct. She was in Secret Wars with the black costume.
See, that almost seems lazy to me. Like I saw it and I'm like, well, she's just wearing the same costume before he was. Actually, I wonder if Secret Wars number 6 predates the first appearance
Well,
of the black costume.
that's something we
Because
should have
I'm gonna
looked up
assume
before we
no.
were recording. So the fourth comic that I picked is one that as soon as I say it, you'll laugh and know why I picked it. And I picked Scooby-Doo Team Up number 12 from DC Comics.
Amazing. Okay.
Came out
Please
November
tell me.
2015. Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Batgirl, and Catwoman appearances. And I picked this one because it came out in 2015, and this was like right when like Harley had just started to blow up even bigger than she was before. Like she was starting to really blow up, and all the speculators were on this one going like, this has a super low print run, estimated print run of approximately 15,000 issues only, 15,000 copies only. So there was just this huge movement online to push this as a notable comic because, Harley Quinn is in it. It's Scooby-Doo Team Up number 12, which is a play on Batman Adventures number 12. And you know, I just thought this was too funny to not mention.
Do you own that one?
I actually don't. I do have a notification on eBay where I'm trying to get a copy, maybe in a 9.8 just for fun, but I don't actually own this issue, period, even though my daughter has most of the Scooby-Doo team up issues. This is not one because at the time it was too expensive.
I was gonna say that's the one of those series that I know that the Collins
We do
kids
have it. We
absolutely
have it in
love.
trade, and I have it digitally. So we've read it many times, but still don't have a physical copy for her Scooby Doo short box.
That definitely reminds me of I was at Dixon Comics, RIP, and on their kids rack, I did see a comic book that it spoke to me for a couple of reasons, and I grabbed it number one because it was a number one, and number two, I was just like, this could get big, even though it never did, because I think the series died. I grabbed DC
Yeah.
Universe Scribblenauts number one. And it's if anybody's ever played the Scribblenauts game, there's a great DC Universe version of it where it's basically an encyclopedia for every single character. Like you can do puzzles and you go to the Batcave and I don't like it's I guess it's hard to explain. It's like a picture book Jenga basically where you're doing little missions on the world. But yeah, I saw that book and I was like, this is amazing. One, I love the art style, and you get like these little weird DC characters in it. And there's the story about Max and his sister going to the Scribblenauts DC world. And yeah, I grabbed it and I still have it to this day. One of the reasons because I thought it might be valuable while fully knowing that video game comics have no value whatsoever. As I look at a comic box I know has my
Yeah.
Killer Instinct comics from the 90s, published by I think Acclaim Comics. So in my wrap up, I believe that Batman Adventures number 12 is indeed it's the first appearance of her in comics, but it's not Harley Quinn's first appearance. So I'm taking that away. Batman Adventures number 12 is not the first appearance of Harley Quinn. The first appearance will always go to Batman the Animated Series, Joker's Favor, aired on September 11th, 1992. So I am stripping CGC
Are you,
of using first
they
appearance.
need to put that in comics there. First appearance in comics out of DC continuity.
I don't know, like I still hate that it's basically saying like first appearance of a character from a show based on a comic. So this character is I guess like 3 parts removed from the comic because it's a comic based on a cartoon show based on a comic. So you're bringing character from a cartoon show that's based on your comic. So I don't know, it's like comicception almost with that character, and I don't
Can
agree with it. I hate it.
Can I tell you something that you're gonna hate just as much or even more? Which is that it's not in the CGC. It's not in the CGC
Oh,
notes. But
please.
as I was doing my research, I saw that Batman Adventures 12 is also listed as the first appearance of Batgirl in the Batman Adventures continuity comics. As if that matters.
How does that make sense? No, yeah, that's like it reminds me of Street Fighter the game based on the movie, where it's a game based on a movie based on a game. That's like saying this is the first appearance of Guile portrayed by Jean-Claude Van Damme in a video game. Like it makes no sense. There's only so many like little notes you can try to add to the value of a comic. At this point, like you already have the first appearance of Harley Quinn in comic book form. Do you really need to try and pad that out within a first appearance of the
Absolutely
cartoon
not.
version of Batgirl?
My final take is that Batman Adventures 12 is a really fun comic to read. It's got a really awesome cover, and it will always be the first appearance of Harley Quinn as far as I'm concerned. In comic books, out of continuity, whatever, I don't care. Love it. You can pry my copy from my cold, dead fingers.
All right, on our next episode, Dan, who
I
are we
believe we're
looking
going to
at?
look at Spider Woman, not Julia Carpenter, but Spider Woman Jessica Drew and the disaster that is her first appearances.
Awesome, thanks, Dan. All right, you can find this podcast series and many more on your favorite podcast app by searching A Kind of Garbage or at akindofgarbage.com. While on the website, you can email us using the Contact Us form on the main page or by emailing us at akindofgarbage@gmail.com. You can find this podcast series and many more on your favorite podcast app by searching A Kind of Garbage or at akindofgarbage.com. While on the site, you can email us by using the Contact Us form on the main page or by emailing us at akindofgarbage@gmail.com. We are also on Twitter and Instagram, both at A Kind of Garbage, as well as Facebook at A Kind of Garbage Pod. And don't forget to visit us at patreon.com/A Kind of Garbage, where you can become a Patreon member at the $5 tier and receive a bonus movie podcast every other Friday. Finally, you can find myself on Twitter at Presto Adam, and with Dan, Martin, Chris, and Chris on the Hey Kids Comics radio show Friday nights at 8 p.m. on Trent Radio 92.7 CFFF FM.
And if you're interested in hearing my thoughts and opinions on something other than comics, you can check out my music discovery podcast, Gather Round the Listening Post. That's gather_round the listening post, available on Spotify.
And with all that said, I'm Adam Bishop.
And I'm Dan Collins.
And we will slab you later.
That joke definitely wasn't a Mint Gem 10. You know what really crinkles my comics?
No, I don't.
These speculators that are trying to make Next Men number 14 the first appearance of Hellboy when it so obviously is not.
See, when I read that, I read it as in this is the first appearance of Hellboy, and it was a pull-out poster
and even that
from the
I
book.
disagree with. Like, as a first appearance, I suppose that could be a whole episode, but
I looked it up to be like, well, what does this poster look like? And holy shit, if this isn't like stretching a first, like just even stretching a what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're just grasping at straws for like a first appearance. Like
it's
this
not
is
even,
not a first appearance.
it's
It's ridiculous.
literally not even fully in the frame. It's only partially in the frame of the panel, and it's not, doesn't even look like Hellboy, honestly.
I can make it out because you know what you're looking for. Like I want to know who the jabroni was that found this and like went like, oh, that's Hellboy, and then like literally like got onto his computer, typed it in like Hellboy first appearance. When is it? Like, like can I try and like make this comic book of Next Men number 14 that I own that is worth no money? Can I make this valuable? And yeah, they're like, this is the furthest stretch I've ever seen for anyone trying to make their comic worth any money.
Stretch. And yeah, if you didn't know what you were looking for, you wouldn't even be able to see it there. And I'm kind of annoyed because Next Men 21, I think, is the actual issue. And that was one of the first kind of key comics I ever got as a comic collector. And I was super excited to have it. And now some a-hole's trying to take that away from me.
Yeah, you can't say that a poster in the comic, like... It's so weird to explain. A poster in the background of a panel of a comic of like a half-baked sketch of Hellboy. Like it's a red poster, flat red, with like a sketch of Hellboy's head, and it says like Hell B above it, and it's cut off. Yeah, like when I posted it to our group, I think it was Chris that said, "Come on, is that it?" Like I don't think like none of us had saw what this quote unquote poster looked like, and yeah, this whoever found this needs to have their comic book collection taken away. I would bet that any one single book of my porn comics would be worth more than this 14.
And the full panels would look better too.
Much more erotic.